Yo, what is going on, guys? Dr. Ethan Turner here with the Fantasy Headliners. Look, this video is going to be an absolute banger. We're talking about rookies again. This time, I'm going to give you guys 5 names of rookies this season that I think by the end of the year could help you win fantasy championships. But before we get into that, you guys have been slamming that like button. You've been subscribing to the channel, and just know that I appreciate everything you're doing for these videos. Remember, every 250 likes that these videos get, I give away a free rookie injury guide. Every 1,000 likes this video gets, I give away a Fantasy Headliners giraffe guide. So if your name is up on the screen, you are a winner of one of those 2 things. Make sure you email Jake at info@thefantasyheadliners.com. But let's get into it. My top 5 rookies that I think could help you win fantasy championships this season. Let's go. All right, guys, finally we have it at number 1, the number 1 guy that I think you need to be drafting that could win you fantasy championships by the end of this season. That is a rookie, Damien Pierce, running back for Houston, okay? You may not have heard of Damien Pierce during the pre-draft process. He was a 4th-round pick. You may not have heard about Damien Pierce during your drafts or leading up to your drafts. But let me tell you why Damien Pierce could be the league-winning running back that you need on your fantasy team this year. First things first, he's playing for Houston. I know the team is not great, but the running backs are not great either. He has immediate week 1 workhorse opportunities if he can prove himself in training camp. There's no real competition for touches in the backfield besides Marlon Mack, who signed a 1-year deal for $2 million. This is not elite competition here. He's coming off of, basically a lost season after he tore his Achilles. We don't know what Marlon Mack's going to look like. They're not paying him a ton of money, and they don't really have any reason to entrust the entire backfield to Marlon Mack on a 1-year deal. Damien Pierce is probably the cheapest running back that's projected to lead his team in rush attempts this season. He's going as the RB48 in the 11th round, and I've seen him fall even further in most of my non-industry drafts that I've seen so far. So, if you're playing with a bunch of friends that don't really know or follow college football or the NFL draft well, 1, you should show them this video, or don't, keep it to yourself. But 2, just know that they probably are going to look at a guy like Damien Pierce and go, I have never heard of that guy. There ain't no way I'm taking him. I would much rather have somebody else in the 11th round that has more name value. So use that to your advantage, okay? Know that Damien Pierce is such a unique prospect because his college production on paper is not very good. But he does carry prototypical size for a running back, and he was very efficient his last year in college. He had 16 touchdowns on only 113 touches. That is more than a touchdown every 10 touches. That is an absolute insane efficiency. Miami just criminally underutilized him despite him averaging 11.4 yards per reception and nearly 6 yards a carry last year. Again, hyper efficient, 16 touchdowns in 113 touches. That is absolute insanity, okay? So Damien Pierce's combination of good size, hyper efficient production while he was in college, and just insane opportunity leads me to believe that he could be a league winner. And if that's not enough to convince you, he gets Jacksonville in his week 17 matchup. There was not a better running back matchup than the team that gave up, if not the most, almost the most rushing yards to opposing running backs last season. Damien Pierce, you just have to get him as your RB4, RB5, even if he isn't the guy right away. I think he is definitely the best bet to lead this team in rushing attempts. And who knows, maybe Davis Mills is pretty good. Maybe the offense as a whole is a lot better. They have decent linemen. There's a chance that Damien Pierce could start for you by the end of the first quarter of the NFL season. And that, to me, just makes him the absolute slam dunk pick for the guy who's most likely to win you fantasy championships as a rookie. All right, we got James Cook, Buffalo Bills running back. Probably the most expensive guy on this list, currently going as the RB41, going in the 10th round. So he is a little bit more expensive, but I do think that he has legitimate league winning upside. He didn't put up unreal numbers in college, and I think that's kind of kept some people away from him, but he played at Georgia. Georgia is notorious for cycling their backs in quickly. What he did show in college is that when he's given opportunity, he can do absolutely amazing things with the football. 6 yards per carry in all 4 seasons of college that he played. He's a very natural pass catcher, one of the better pass catching running backs from this draft class. He has above average burst, and he has elite 94th percentile among NFL running backs top end speed. So he can get up to speed quickly, and when he's there, very few guys are going to be able to keep up with him. The only problem that I have with James Cook is he does share a backfield with a starter that played very well at the end of last season in Devin Singletary. And historically, Josh Allen really doesn't check down to his running backs. But here's the reason I think that this is going to change. Okay, one, I do think the team has recognized that while Josh Allen doesn't maybe want to check down to the running backs, he's got to stop taking the hits from being using his legs as the outlet. They wanted to get him a pass-catching running back to use on third down that could be in addition to this explosive offense that likes to throw the ball downfield. They tried to get J.D. McKissic this offseason, failed, and then they drafted James Cook. I think they want Josh Allen to start checking down and maybe using his running backs a little bit more as a safety outlet instead of using his own legs to keep his injury risk at a minimum. I do think that Cook could be the guy that changes Josh Allen's approach to checking down to the running backs because he is a dynamic pass catcher. He's easily the best pass catching running back that Josh Allen has played with. He's got good athleticism and better vision, I think, than Devin Singletary. And I think that by the end of the year, even if Singletary doesn't get hurt, I do see a world where James Cook could get a solid 50-50 split of the running work from Devin Singletary and get all the passing work. And I think that, if Singletary gets hurt, then you're looking at James Cook as being an absolute no-brainer running back that's going to give you just immediate league-winning potential each and every week. Before we get into more rookies that could help you win your leagues, if you want to win in the bedroom, make sure that you're heading over to our friends at Manscaped. Get you 20% off when you use the code HEADLINER and free shipping. Make sure that you guys are using that because Manscaped has awesome products. Anything that you need, they will get you taken care of. But let's go in to number 3, Skye Moore for the Kansas City Chiefs. Skye Moore is a really dynamic receiver. He has a lot of skill sets that I look for when we're talking about wide receivers that are going to build into a role and then potentially even explode into fantasy superstardom by the end of the season. He finds himself in a very unproven wide receiver room right now. So obviously that Travis Kelce is going to get his, but everybody else in this room hasn't really ever shown that they can be an elite number 1 option for a team. You got guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Mecole Hardman. None of these guys is really guaranteed any set number of volume throughout the season, which opens up the opportunity for a guy like Skye Moore. Skye Moore's skill set really does mold into any of the roles that Kansas City would need him to do while he is playing. If anybody misses time, Skye Moore will be the guy that fills in for them. If Juju Smith-Schuster misses time, Skye Moore can come in and win over the middle of the field. If Marquez Valdes-Scantling misses time or Mecole Hardman, Skye Moore can come in and be a deep threat. He has the speed that is required to do those types of things. He has been used all over the offense in training camp so far. They even have him taking a few snaps at running back, which is something that we saw Deebo Samuel do last year. If you can get some wide receiver touches at running back, you will absolutely take that. Kansas City doesn't have a great run game currently. We're hoping it's a little bit better this year, but there's no guarantee of that. So if Skye Moore is getting some opportunity as a running back on top of being a wide receiver, that is a very unique skill set that could and has in the last year won people fantasy championships. So it's worth knowing that he is looking at potentially a Deebo Samuel-esque role. He probably won't get that type of volume unless something happens to the other wide receivers, but just know they are trying to use him in the backfield as well. In college, he was an early producer right away, which is something we love to see from the rookies coming in. Basically, as soon as he stepped foot in college, he was an absolute dynamo in the passing game. Led his team in receptions and receiving yards as a true freshman. Last season, he was 9th in the FBS with 95 catches. Just really efficient when he gets targeted. You love to see that. He is currently going as the wide receiver 56 in the 12th round. That's pretty good value for someone that should step into a consistent role and has room to grow with a young quarterback in Patrick Mahomes that likes to throw the ball. And by the end of the year, you could see Skye Moore maybe even taking over as the wide receiver 1 for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think that that is a role that is definitely worth considering as somebody that could win you a fantasy league. All right, up next at number 4, we got Rashaad White, running back for the Buccaneers. White is an interesting one because I do think that he does probably need an injury to Leonard Fournette to be a true league winner by the end of this season. But we know Leonard Fournette, he has a history of ankle issues. He has been hurt in the past. He may not play a full, 17 games, and they may actually work Leonard Fournette into less of a role as the regular season goes on because they want to hold off for him to be playoff Lenny in the playoffs, which is good for Rashaad White. White does have a little bit of value as a pass catcher at Arizona State. Last season, he caught 43 passes for 456 yards and a touchdown. That is very respectable for a college running back in the receiving game. And he's already seeing some camp reps as a third down back with the ones, which is a good sign that they do see the value that he has as a pass catcher and could even use him in that role right away because he's already working with the ones in camp. Currently being drafted as the RB46 in the 11th round. That's kind of pricey for a backup, but I do think he carries league-winning upside as a handcuff, and he could also provide some weekly flex value depending on the matchup with the third down work that he has. So we know that their offensive line is already beat up. Could Tom Brady revert into some habits that he had last year where he's checking down to his running backs at a higher rate than the rest of the NFL? I think that's very possible. And Rashaad White gives you a little bit more juice week to week, more opportunity to make a big play. His size speed score is pretty incredible. So he is dynamic in the passing game. So he has a role to start the year. And if something happens to Leonard Fournette, could develop into a true league winning back by the end of the season. Let's go into number 5, and that's wide receiver Jalen Tolbert for the Cowboys. Currently, he's projected to start the year kind of as the wide receiver 2 in the offense with James Washington getting hurt, and then Michael Gallup is also out with injury and not expected to start week 1. So there is an opportunity here for Jalen Tolbert, a rookie, to come in and be the wide receiver 2 to start the year. It gives him a chance to build on this type of role right from the beginning, which is something that I really look for when I'm talking about rookies that are going to grow their role over the course of the season. A little bit about Jalen Tolbert. He was a mega producer as a redshirt senior in college at South Alabama. I know that's not amazing competition, but he still was a mega producer. He averaged over 120 yards per game and had over 140 yards in 50% of his college games last year. His 1,474 yards were actually 8th best in the FCS among all wide receivers. He was a target magnet, which is good. We want to see guys that command targets in college because they tend to command targets when they get to the NFL as well. 250 targets over his last 2 years in college. He had a 97th percentile college dominator his senior year among wide receivers that enter the league. So this is a guy who does dominate targets in the offense that he was in. I know that he didn't have a great competition while at South Alabama, but what we do want to look for with guys coming into the league from teams that are not necessarily known for producing NFL talent, did he dominate the targets? Did he dominate the receptions? Did he dominate his competition at the level that he was playing at? And Jalen Tolbert absolutely did this. Now, I will say the price on Jalen Tolbert is starting to reflect this opportunity more than I would like, which is why he's not further up on my list. His ADP has risen pretty much since the James Washington injury, but as of recording, he was wide receiver 63. Going in the 13th round, he's still a very valuable dart throw in a league, especially if you can start multiple wide receivers. If you're starting 4 or 5 wide receivers every single week, Jalen Tolbert is somebody that I absolutely think is draftable at his current ADP. And I think that by the end of this year, if he manages to work his way into this offense, it's an offense that's going to throw the ball a ton. And I think that Jalen Tolbert could have even more of a role as the year progresses, as he gets more comfortable with the speed of the NFL game. So that's it, guys. 5 guys that I think could help win you fantasy championships by the end of this season. Make sure that you hit that like button. Remember, every 250 likes this video gets, I give away a rookie injury guide. Every 1,000 likes this video gets, we're giving away a fantasy headliners draft guide. Please let me know down in the comments, who are some rookies that you are for sure drafting this year? Who do you think is going to win you fantasy championships? Make sure that you are following us and subscribing to us at the Fantasy Headliners. We're going to give you guys all sorts of fantasy updates throughout the season. It's right around the corner. We're looking forward to it. But until I see you again, the doc is out.